He's the founder and CEO of Exergen Corporation, as well as a researcher at Harvard University. Frank, thank you very much for joining us at DCD New York 2011.
Very welcome. Glad to be here.
Exergen designs and manufactures infrared scanners, thermometers, and sensors, and holds more than 60 patents on the technology used in its products. Frank himself patented the world's first temporal artery thermometer. Frank, let's begin by explaining how a thermometer company become a data center vendor, or how do you go from thermometers to data centers, beyond the obvious fact that data center managers are very concerned with taking temperature of their data centers?
Well, actually, it's the other way around. We've been working on monitoring power systems for much longer, actually, than on medical thermometers. And part of my presentation here at the conference is to show what things were like back, more than 20 years ago in this field when some of the technology was just beginning, and how it's evolved, and now we have much better ways of doing this that solve some of the fundamental problems that had existed back then and still exist now. The medical thermometers, that was building on a similar technology base. Of course, it refined immensely for the specific application in medical care, but a lot of the fundamentals are very similar, and that is to be able to detect the information from the thermal signatures, on a subject, whether it's a building or a person, and then be able to, to accurately, mathematically use that information, to infer the temperatures that you need in order to accomplish whatever the objective is. And in the case of building, is to prevent a big problem from occurring. In the case of a person, is to provide information to the clinicians, who then can act and make sure that that the patient is properly cared for.
You work with we work a lot with infrared technologies. Today at DataCenterDynamics, you're delivering a presentation on use of infrared technology in data center power monitoring. Can you give us a brief overview of the role this technology can play in data centers?
The principal improvement, from 20-odd years ago, and the development of the infrared thermal scanning, is that now we have the technology to actually do it full-time, 24/7, in the panels. Whereas previously, the best we could do was once a year, someone goes out with an imager, a thermal imager, and begins scanning panels and making records of what the status was as of that time. However, the electrical system, of course, changing all the time. Loads, changes, corrosion, mechanical deformation, and if you're not there looking at it, with the appropriate sensing device, at the time that problem occurs, then you have the outages and big disasters, the failures, etc. And so the most significant difference is that now we can take all of that technology, shrink it down to little tiny size sensors, and put it in the panel. And so we can monitor it 100% of the time, and that makes a huge, huge difference.
Your presentation mentions the use of thermal mapping, the use of infrared sensors can detect power failures before they occur. Can you tell us how that works?
Yes, the one thing that was literally impossible before, when intermittent scanning was done using handheld devices, is to be able to monitor the trends. And the trends, not only in the detected thermal information, but also in the effect of the loads and the effect of the history of that particular location, because all that information now can be used to assess risk. So it's a risk assessment that's very important, because if you get movement in the thermal signature of a particular location in the recent history, that's an alert, to the appropriate responsible people, that this ought to be closely monitored. And if it reaches, an alert level where the risk threshold is reached, then you have to, make appropriate plans to make the repairs, to do maintenance on it, whatever is in the protocol of the particular data center facilities operations.
What kinds of vendors are the most likely adapters of this technology, and how widespread is its adoption today?
Right now, the technology is so new that it's the early adopters that are installing it. As a guess, we probably have 10,000 points installed at this point. 10,000 locations are being monitored. Some of them that I'm personally aware of, we have our partner is QHI Industries in the UK for systems integration, and they're the ones that are doing all of the assessment of the installation of customers, putting the computers together and the software and so forth that's necessary to make it work. I happen to be aware of one large installation with a hospital chain, and since we supply the hospital with the temporal artery thermometers, and it so happens that we're also supplying the hospital with the monitoring equipment to protect their emergency power systems, to make sure that when they need the power they have it. So hospitals are a good example of a mission critical power requirement. But I do know that the QHI people are working with a number of worldwide suppliers and panel builders to build these in, because the customers are demanding it. They're demanding reliable operations of the data center, and that's where we can help them.
Frank, thank you very much.
Very welcome. Thank you.